actual security present based on the fact that he's dead. So, serious red flag.
Jill, back to you. Putin is sending his own investigators to Turkey to essentially try and find out what happened. Is that fairly standard, or is there more going on here?
I would have to think there's more going on here. The Russians really do want to get to the bottom of this, how it happened. They do want to know, and President Putin said this, he wants to know who ordered this. So I think there's a chapter 2 coming as this investigation continues to find out whether they pin it on someone, whether they can say that it actually was ordered as opposed to one particular individual carrying out that attack.
Okay, Jill, thank you. Jill Doherty there, our CNN contributor, former Moscow bureau chief. Also, Aaron Cohen here in Los Angeles giving us a security perspective on everything. We will take a short break. When we come back, Donald Trump is condemning the latest of what he is calling terror attacks, says the violence is only getting worse. We'll have more from the U.S. president-elect in just a moment. Market in Berlin is being investigated as an act of terrorism. 12 people were killed, 48 injured when a truck barreled into the crowd. One suspect is in custody. Another man was found dead inside the truck. Police say he's a Polish citizen and was not driving during the attack. Turkey and Russia are investigating the assassination of the Russian ambassador to Turkey. A police officer shot Andrei Karlov at an art gallery in Ankara. The 22-year-old gunman shouted, "Do not forget Aleppo," and Allahu Akbar, or God is greatest. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump is condemning the Ankara assassination. He says it's a violation of civilized order carried out by a radical Islamic terrorist. Trump also offered condolences to the victims of the Berlin truck attack and vowed to eradicate terrorists. Well, joining us here now in Los Angeles, CNN's senior political analyst Ron Brownstein. Ron, good to have you with us. Trump issued this statement after the Berlin attack. Innocent civilians were murdered in the streets as they prepared to celebrate the Christmas holiday. ISIS and other Islamist terrorists continually slaughter Christians in their communities and places of worship as part of their global jihad. You know, he's already blaming Islamic terrorism. The German authorities haven't even gone that far. So it does seem that, you know, he did this in the campaign. Again, he's moving ahead. He's jumping the gun.
Right. Well, you know, it has the hallmarks of what we have seen before, and circumstantial evidence as Islamic terror. But again, it is jumping the gun. And it is one thing to do that as a candidate. It is another as a president. And every time you read one of these tweets, for example, over the weekend about China with unprecedented, spelt incorrectly, you have to wonder, what is the process by which the president-elect and soon to be the president of the United States is going through before he puts this out to the world? Is Michael Flynn reading it? Is Rex Tillerson reading it? Is General Mattis reading it? Or is it simply him kind of reacting instantly? And I think that's going to be very different as president even than it has been as candidate.
Everything that has happened in the last 24 hours, from Turkey to Germany, it presents a picture of a very complicated, a very complex world. It would be a challenge for any incoming president. More so, it seems, one that doesn't have a lot of experience, and also one who is pretty much at odds right now with his own intelligence community. There seems to be trouble ahead for Trump.
Well, a degree of conflict that we have not seen. And in some of the leaks that have come out in the last few weeks are a reminder of how much discomfort the intelligence community can cause for a president if they are seen to be at war with him. Not only that, not only everything you've described, a Secretary of State with a nominee with no real diplomatic experience, although certainly deal-making experience around the world, a national security advisor who has been at odds with most of the intelligence community. Really, only the defense secretary is kind of situated with broad respect across the national security community. It's a very unpredictable position, especially because Donald Trump has questioned so much of the post-World War II U.S. role as kind of the linchpin of global stability, moving much more toward a question of what's in it for us.
Okay, let's move on to the Electoral College, because it became official on Monday. Donald Trump is the president-elect. This insurgency, this last-ditch insurgency, it failed. The New York Times reports that Trump's Electoral College vote ranks 46th out of 58 elections. His popular vote puts him 47th of the last 49 elections. What are the implications of those numbers?
First of all, only 2 presidents ever lost the popular vote by percentage-wise by more than he did. He lost it in raw vote total by more than anybody did, nearly 3 million votes. Hillary Clinton won the popular vote by more than Jimmy Carter, John F. Kennedy, and nearly as much as George W. Bush. What it means is that Donald Trump is coming in with a less of a honeymoon and a more divided country than any incoming president really in the history of polling. I think he will almost certainly have the lowest approval rating of any newly inaugurated president in Gallup polling coalition going back to Dwight Eisenhower in 1953. It's not going to mean much right away in terms of influencing the agenda because Republicans have unified control and they are going to drive forward the built-up agenda over the last several years. But he is starting on kind of a, an island. I mean, he doesn't have that big honeymoon, and I think you're going to see a lot of pressure on Democrats as a result to be in a position of resistance right from the beginning.
We're also seeing his poll numbers, which aren't great. I mean, 50%. Right. Barack Obama at a similar point was at almost 70%. Yes. This is a guy who loves his polls, and they're kind of, it's almost political capital for a president, right. The opinion poll ratings, and he's not doing well.
No, like I said, I think he will come in with the lowest approval rating of any newly inaugurated president ever. But one thing we have seen from Republicans, going back all the way to Bill Clinton's impeachment in 1998, if they have support within their coalition, they are comfortable going ahead, even if they don't have majority support among the public overall. And I'm not sure how much this is going to shape the choices they make in Congress, with one big exception. How far do they go toward rolling back some of the entitlement programs for the elderly that Paul Ryan and the House Republicans have wanted to cut for years? Donald Trump promised not to. His new HHS secretary has said he's part of that camp that wants to cut him. Does Donald Trump go forward? I think that's a very big question.
Something to watch. Ron, good to have you with us. Thank you. Again, a short break here. We'll come back. We'll have more on the breaking news in Ankara, the assassination of Russia's ambassador to Turkey. We'll look at the implications for relations between the two countries. You're watching CNN Live. Welcome back, everybody. Just gone 40 minutes past 9 here in Los Angeles. Russian investigators will be in Ankara on Tuesday after the assassination of Russia's ambassador to Turkey. The shooting was all caught on camera, and the video is graphic. More details now from Barbara Starr.
The shocking assassination of the Russian ambassador to Turkey caught on video. Ambassador Andrei Karlov was shot dead while making a speech at an art exhibition in Turkey's capital, Ankara. The horrifying moment the ambassador is hit and falls to the ground after being shot in the back with multiple rounds. As onlookers scrambled for safety, the gunman shouted defiantly,
"God is greatest. Do not forget Aleppo. Do not forget Syria. Do not forget Aleppo. Do not forget Syria. Get back, get back. Only death will remove me from here. Everyone who has taken part in this oppression will one by one pay for it."
Turkish authorities said the attacker was, quote, neutralized. Russian President Vladimir Putin tonight reacting to the assassination.
The only response we should offer to this murder is stepping up our fight against terror, and the criminals will feel the heat.
Turkey's interior minister said the gunman was a law enforcement officer, a 22-year-old member of the riot police who was born in Turkey. The State Department condemned the attack.
We stand ready to offer any assistance that may be required to Russia and Turkey as they investigate this despicable attack.
A journalist took these stunning photographs moments after the carnage began. After the attack, as the ambassador was quickly taken to the hospital, Turkish security forces swarmed the area. It is not clear what impact the killing may have now on Turkey's sometimes fragile relations with Russia, which hit an all-time low after Turkish forces shot down a Russian warplane near the Syrian border in November 2015. Russia also is widely blamed by many in the region for its part in supporting Syria's Assad regime amid a humanitarian crisis taking place in war-torn Aleppo. Following the ambassador's assassination, Turkish President Erdogan and Russian President Putin spoke by phone, according to a Russian news agency. The slain ambassador had served as Russia's ambassador to Turkey since 2013. He was married and had one son, according to the Russian embassy. The question now for the Russians may be to what extent their presence in Turkey is also a target for terror attacks. Barbara Starr, CNN, the Pentagon.
With us, at the highest level, the presidents of Turkey and Russia, they appear united in their response, but that's not a view which is being shared by many Turks. In recent weeks, they've become increasingly angry at Russia for the role its military has played in the fall of Aleppo and neighboring Syria.
Well, John, I mean, Turkey is sitting on a volcano right now. It's about ready to go off, and it's thanks to Aleppo. It's thanks to the war in Syria. A lot of Turkish citizens are really upset. They're really upset that Erdogan is not doing more, not that he can do much. I do know that the regime, I know people there, very, very worried about the fallout from Mosul, Aleppo, Idlib province, that this mess in Syria is doomed to move up into Turkey. And they don't know what to do about it. They've been begging the American administration to stop the slaughter in Aleppo. Nothing we can do about it, but nonetheless, and the same goes for Mosul. So whoever this guy was, the policeman that shot the Russian ambassador, whether he was motivated or in contact with the Islamic State, doesn't really matter at this point. What does is the sympathies among Turkish citizens for what's happening in Syria.
And the gunman, he shouted jihadist slogans. He said, don't forget about Aleppo. So given that, would you expect to see increased military operations in Syria as some kind of form of retaliation by Moscow?
Oh, I think the Russians will retaliate. They would like to, and I think they'll retaliate around Aleppo and Idlib and the rest of it. I don't think Putin can let this go. I think Putin is also worried about Turkey. Erdogan and Putin are getting along these days the best they can. Syria, to this degree, have gotten up on the back of a tiger, and we're going to see a lot more of this, and we're going to see an escalation of Russian involvement.
Well, one thing which we're seeing in Turkey, it seems the president there is just not in control of domestic security, a situation which has seemed to go from bad to worse after Erdogan locked up his own generals after that failed coup attempt back in July.
Well, it's more than that. Erdogan is personally, and I know this, worried about an assassination himself, his own security services, whether they're supported by Gulen or the Islamic State. That coup in June came as a complete surprise to him, and he got away just by chance, and he's worried about his military and police, and with this assassination now he should be.
Do you see this as a pretext in Turkey for another widespread range of arrests, thousands of more people being locked up, anyone who could oppose Erdogan domestically ending up in jail?
I think Erdogan is, like I said, truly frightened. Yes, he will retaliate. He will purge more police, but the more he purges, the more tenuous the situation gets. He will also continue to go up against the Kurds, more arrests there. Turkey is, let's put it this way, is not particularly stable at this point.
Okay, Bob, good to speak with you. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
A short break. When we come back, we'll have more on our other top stories. We'll look at why German authorities have been worried about attacks on Christmas markets for months.